Hi, everybody. Welcome back for another edition of Flight Crew. It's very exciting to announce today that we also have Delta. Delta Airlines is going to be represented today. I have Matt Kutches with us. He is the director of key accounts, and he's going to share some what's going on with Delta. They're celebrating their 100th anniversary and talking about what the latest is with tariffs, with their equipment, bringing on new aircraft, and what the shutdown has meant to them with respect to airports, TSA workers, and so on. Thank you for joining us, and look forward to sharing some of that conversation with you.
Welcome to Flight Crew with Jay Ellenby.
Hi, everybody. We're back for another edition of Flight Crew. And with me, I have Matt Kutches with Delta Airlines, and Matt is the director of key accounts. So thank you so much, Matt. There's so much going on in the industry right now. There's so much going on in the economy, so much going on at the airports. You're the best person to talk to. So Matt, what you got? Tell us about what's going on with Delta.
Well, as always, there's a lot going on at Delta. Um, and we just finished up our third quarter earnings call. So for those of you that maybe didn't tune in, a couple of the quick highlights would be third quarter was a really good quarter, better than expected. We came in above estimates as it relates to profitability. If you go back to the beginning of the year, we laid out a great plan and foundation talking about how this was going to be probably our best year ever as our 100-year anniversary centennial. 20 days later, it turned out to not be so much with everything going on in the macro environment with government shutdown and tariffs and all of these other things that have followed. But it's still turning out to be a really good year. I think we're really excited. We were solidly profitable. We've seen some really good economic indicators that tell us, as it relates specifically to corporate travel, that corporate travel looks good. We've seen 6 weeks of sequential growth in corporate travel year over year. We've had a couple of our best revenue intakes as it comes to corporate travel in the last 30 days. I think you actually participate in this as well, but we sent out a corporate survey to our top 1,500 or so accounts and TMCs. 90% of those that answered the survey came back and told us that they felt their corporate travel program was going to maintain at the same equilibrium or better as it closes out the year and into 2026. So we think as it comes to corporate travel, we're cautiously optimistic that we're going to end the year in a really good place. Now, that doesn't dismiss that there's a lot of things going on, but this is you talk about at the macro level, we see really good things in fin and tech and such. Not so much in manufacturing, probably impacted by the tariffs. Not so much in government business, impacted by the government shutdown. But where we're down, there are others that are gleaming a light, and that's delivering.
So Matt, thanks. I'm going to touch on a few of those things shortly between tariffs and shutdown. But first of all, happy 100. You age well. You definitely. So congratulations on that. I don't know what your trick is, but nice job. You mentioned third quarter year over year is doing very well. What do you think? What are the drivers behind that? What are the things that has changed compared to the previous few months?
I would say it's not just even what's changed in the last few months, but I think if you look at the industry, particularly the U.S. airline industry in a macro fashion, what's been going on at Delta is a strategy that we set out 15 years ago. We were looking for a transformation of our business to go from what I think everybody in corporate travel saw as travel as a commodity. I make my choice based solely on price and schedule to get to where I need to get from point A to point B. And we have evolved the airline to be centered around customers' choice of experience. And really, that's really what I think is one of the deciding factors. And when you look at why Delta is doing really well, and I'll even give, a plug out to, there's another competitor, particularly of the big four between the Delta, United, American, and Southwest. There's a tale of two cities, and several are doing really well. They're going to mount for most of the profits of the industry for the year, and others are not because they didn't choose the path of decommoditization. And we're seeing that particularly even in the low-cost carriers. We go beyond the big four. We look at JetBlue, and you look at what's going on with Spirit in bankruptcy for the second time. The forced merger, I would call, between Alaska and Hawaiian. Everybody is looking to survive versus thrive, and that is because it was, they're putting out products that are based on price.
Interesting. Yeah, okay. You're stealing my mantra there. Thrive versus survive. So yeah, we've mentioned that for years. How do we do more than just survive? And I know Delta. You and I go way back, and we go way back with Delta. And yeah, you've had a plan that's been in place for quite a few years. And by the way, it was great seeing you last week. For everybody out there, we were at the American Society of Travel Advisors Legislative Day, where we took part in a meeting with legislators, and Matt was great to be part of that as well. So thank you for Delta support and supporting our part of the industry.
Absolutely. And you had a wonderful, I wouldn't call it a podcast, but a live stream. So, I enjoyed listening to you getting the interview questions.
Yeah, absolutely. That was fun. It was a panel I participated on corporate travel, return on investment, which I think is also available on our stream, Safe Harbor streams as well. And so, yeah, I did call out Alex Eaton with his Delta socks. So we have a little bit of fun with that. So Matt, talk about, this has been a strange year when it comes to air travel, and there have been a few incidents, and as soon as the media gets a hold of them, they continuously repeat those incidents, and then repeat them and repeat them. And there was an incident that took place recently up in New York between a couple of Delta aircraft. People are asking, what's the status with safety and the flying public, and certainly for corporate travel? What's the status, and what can you tell us from your perspective?
Well, first, I would continue to emphasize what our CEO at Bastion has told us. He's been interviewed in the media, and that flying continues to be the safest form of travel, bar none, and safer than getting in a car. And I think even in light of the incident that occurred in New York, things that have occurred earlier this year. I think in our present world of media and social media, we're seeing these things happening real time where you may not have seen it other than to be able to read an article in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. Days later after the event or weeks later after the event occurred. There are events that are happening all the time. But again, I would reemphasize to the traveling public, it is flying a plane remains to be the safest form of travel to get from point A to point B. And at Delta, really, safety first is everything we do. It's the number one guiding principle at Delta. We want to run the most on-time operation, but we will always be second to that in ensuring that we run a safe operation. It's the foundation of every decision we make, and our uncompromising safety culture is known as best in class in the industry. Our pilots, our flight attendants, our ground teams undergo rigorous recurring training. We often exceed that of the FAA requirements, and we empower our people. Our people to make decisions. If something isn't going right in the operation, we call timeout, and they are empowered to do so at the expense of the operation, so that we make sure that we deliver safe number one.
So, there was a couple of years ago, and I would assume it's still the case. Is there still a shortage of pilots?
That's a great question. As it relates to probably the big four carriers, no.
Okay.
There's been enough of a call up from we kind of created maybe a little bit of a problem on the connection carrier side, as far as they're the ones that are having, we've hired tens of thousands of pilots coming back out of the ramp up out of the pandemic. And that's been an across the board scenario, investing in college to build to recruit people right out of college. A lot of different programs in place, not just us, but across the industry. I wouldn't say that we have a shortage at Delta. We feel really good where we are, and there is enough there's enough demand out there, not just in the macro environment, but generally of people that want to sign up to be able to be a Delta pilot.
Fantastic. I would love to be. Can I sign up?
There's days that I wish so too. I was at the dentist yesterday, and the way that I talk about how I travel, the hygienist always assumes that I'm a pilot. And I said, no, I work in corporate travel and sales. So they're always mystified by that.
I wonder where you were going with that, the dentist and being a pilot, but that was always my dream. That was always my dream to be a pilot. And I don't know if I've missed my calling or not, but if somebody would hire me, I would love to do it. Of course, yeah. maybe I need to get some training behind me. But anyway, so talk about the current situation, the current economic situation. I'm going to throw a couple things in there. Let's start with the first one, tariffs. Have you seen any impact on the international side and domestic side impacting your flights?
I would say yes, and I think that I kind of alluded to that, and maybe your opening question when we were talking about, by day 20 and the announcement of the tariffs. There has been absolutely impact as it's related to government business and manufacturing. The
Hmm.
push and pull. By the time we've gotten to the summer, though, and some of the deals coming out with countries, the manufacturing impact has been minimizing. So, and again, I would tell you from a Delta perspective, even, some of that uncertainty seems to have dissipated with certain, and so we've seen some come back because certain countries have put together a deal and on a go forward basis, and that's helped drive decision making. And then if you look at just generally the corporate perspective of what we've seen in the last 6 weeks and continues to build, we see good momentum. So even with the tariffs, 2 weeks ago or a week ago, we had the more headlines on tariffs with China are heating back up, but that doesn't seem to be impacting our business. And I would say one additional thing as it relates to absolutely, saying, yeah, we have seen impact. If you look at kind of what happened, particularly over the transatlantic over the summer, it was a tale of two again. I would say those corporate customers that are more price sensitive and don't have business class policy, we saw a lot of softening on transatlantic coach, but our premium cabins, albeit Comfort Plus, Delta Premium Select, our premium economy product, to Delta One business class, were all very, very full. And for what we didn't see manifest and load factor in the main cabin, we were able to make up probably in fare in the premium cabin, or the fact that the propensity of the amount of premium that was being booked was up year over year.
That's interesting. So you mentioned transatlantic coach being on the lower side. Is that how about domestic? What was the impact on domestic?
Similar.
Similar. Okay. Trans-Pacific?
No, Trans-Pacific, we have such limited capacity on
Okay.
Delta. That's actually an investment area for us,
Okay.
the Trans-Pacific. But Trans-Pacific and Deep Latin have been doing really well. Transatlantic, I think, the a lot of low cost carriers brought back a lot of capacity this summer.
Hmm.
I think as an industry, we were at over capacity as it relates to main cabin product, coach product, to translate for everybody, but coach product was oversaturated. And so between that, impacts from tariff, impact from whatever else that was going on there, the demand, I wouldn't say the demand, a little dissipation in demand environment, and just so much competition that it was really hard to build load factor in those cabins.
Gotcha. So let's transition into a somewhat related, but the shutdown. What is the and when I say the shutdown, how much has that impacted your load factor? Number one, and what is the impact when it comes to air traffic controllers? Have you seen any kind of impact there as well? And of course TSA, getting people through the airport to your planes, and then once they're on the plane, they have to have the accessibility or taken off through the air traffic controllers. Those things specifically, but overall, have you seen any impact from the shutdown?
So as of today, we have seen limited to no impact. The good news, I think, as it's related to, ATC, TSA, and any other government employee, is related to travel. They were paid on October 1st. So we are now lapping what the middle of the month. This would be paycheck number 2 of the month. And this is going to be the first time that they're not really having their budgeted income coming in. I think it remains to be seen, but I'll borrow a little bit of what we've kind of said publicly, and that again is reiterating we have seen minimal impact thus far. We think that if you look at previous government shutdowns, you're usually good for 2, 3, up to 4 weeks historically. Just using as history repeats itself. Optimistic that hopefully the government's going to come together and fix the problem before we get to a point of ATC or TSA no show.
Yeah, gotcha. Let's all hope that this ends very soon. Dragging on doesn't help anyone, and so it's certainly one that there were some conversations that did take place last week up on the Hill when we were in DC. So as we wrap up here, Matt, one thing you kind of touched on, but I want to give you an opportunity to talk about what's ahead for Delta. What do you see what's ahead? You did kind of allude to the idea of investing in Trans-Pacific, but kind of give us an idea what's ahead for Delta as we look into 2026 and beyond.
Absolutely. So I'll try and hit on two different things because I think that those are usually the most exciting things to hear about. And one is probably network expansion. So from a network perspective, if you look into 26, our priorities are number one, our newest joint venture partnership, Latam, our partnership with them into South America. It's our newest. You should expect to see for the next several years for us to work together to unlock significantly more capacity into deep South America. Just months ago, we added Argentina, which was the missing country in South America, not part of the joint venture. Immediately following Argentina being added, we went from 1 to 2 times a day Atlanta, Buenos Aires. We announced that we're adding Salt Lake City to Lima in 2026. So very excited. We see a lot of growth coming into deep South America. I did allude a little bit into Asia. Lots of positive coming out of our Korean joint venture, and we expect to grow aggressively once they complete their merger with Asiana. They're a little bit, distracted with that, but we still have had sequential growth into Asia every year, and we don't expect to slow down into 26. Because if you look at JV Asia partnership aside, Asia's been an underserved destination to Delta. And the merger Northwest was a huge piece of our network strategy. And we flew all sorts of places out of Tokyo. We've dismantled that hub and we rely heavily on Korean to connect people over Seoul. But we know that there's demand for US based, point to point. Our hope is that we could continue to do that in Los Angeles. Two problems there. One, Delta had been undergoing heavy construction and adding additional gate capacity in LAX. We've completed that earlier this year. So that gives us additional gate availability. That constraint is now gone. And then the second is obviously the next gen aircraft and the aircraft delivery problems and delays that we've seen both. We're on the books for a whole bunch of wide body A330 Neos and A350 that will give us the ability to be able to fly those point to point for, in LA, I think our network into the Pacific was LA, Sydney, and LA, Haneda. Even earlier this year, we're adding Melbourne, Brisbane, Auckland. We announced a few weeks ago that we're gonna serve in 2026 LA, Hong Kong. And then I would say the other region that has been historically underserved by Delta Metal is the Middle East. We only fly to Tel Aviv. In and out this year, obviously. But in July of 24, we signed that partnership with Riyadh Air with plans to do interline and code-share connectivity. That agreement set the stage for what we believe probably in 2026 for us to begin service between U.S. and Riyadh. And then well beyond in the Middle East to its connectivity with Riyadh Air. And then as we continue to get those A350 1000s in to be able to add additional touch points. And then the other thing is like from an industry trend and a customer experience perspective, customer expectations continue to evolve, and what we're doing to, rethink the flyer experience is continuing to give customers choice through premium investments. That doesn't mean just, on the ground with more sky clubs or larger sky clubs, which we are doing, but we're adding Delta One lounges to elevate that experience. So it's not just about expanding space because we have more Delta One seats. It's about giving the Delta One customer a better experience. It's not just about adding, flat beds on the plane, but we're putting on doors, investing in the screens so that they're bigger screens, that they have wireless headphone connectivity, better food and beverage experience. We've evolved the product from not just business and main cabin to business, premium economy, which we call Delta Premium Select, to Comfort Plus. And not just better business class, but in general, we've got this huge partnership right now with private aviation company Wheels Up Air Partner, which we're a majority owner. So it's not, when business class isn't enough, we want to make sure that we have a one-stop shop for those corporate customers that are looking for maybe supplementing some private aviation into their program. So all of that to say, it's all about customer choice. We have a mantra of listen, act, listen. We put things out. We let the customer really dictates a lot of our investment decisions, whether that be through these products, whether that be where we're flying in our network. We're constantly listening to the customer and making sure we can deliver on what they see as what they want next.
Exciting, Matt. I didn't hear supersonic though. The supersonic planes.
So no, we haven't done. We have some great investments on a sustainability front with Joby Electric taxis. Essentially, we actually expect, if not in late 2026, by early 2027, to see those flying either out of Manhattan into the New York airports or LAX up into Hollywood Hills, et cetera, whatever else. Probably soon. We've already seen some test flights kind of going on with those. We think that's great from a sustainability perspective and high traffic destinations. We did not sign up for the Sonic Boom planes. And frankly, I'll tell you, I don't think we really have per se a talking point on this, but I've heard Ed Bastian again speak some of this. If you go back to the days of Air France flying the, give me the word, Jag, the Concorde, thank you. When you go and BA, it's kind of those planes were 15,000-20,000 back then, more expensive than first classes to fly La Premiere these days for a person, and so only a select few would have access to that type of product. And based on the investment and what's needed for these Sonic planes, we don't currently see a price point where it would make sense to be able to increase the number of people that are flying. If you look around the world, I think about a third, only 1 in 3 people globally have flown. And so you think about the opportunity that we have in front of ourselves from continuing to grow. International is our growth opportunity. And yes, Sonic, flying supersonic to be able to get from point A to point B would be great to be able to open up new parts of the world. But it really, at the price point that it's going to take, it's going to be for a select few. So our goal is to be able to continue to work with the manufacturers to come up with better planes that have longevity and distance, and that we can deliver a good product for the masses to be able to fly.
So what are you saying? We can't use our points? We'll be able to use our reward points to like a supersonic?
I'm sure you would be able to. It might require quite a few points, but
A lot of points, yeah.
we hope to be able to let you use points one day to be able to book your private jet on Wheels Up.
Yeah, yeah. Matt, I can tell you this, that you guys do it well. Delta does it very well. And I think one of the things that's most impressive is you think things through as a company. Being 100 years old, there's a reason why you get to be 100 years old. So, but you definitely think it through, really put all the details in place. So it's admirable within the industry, which oftentimes is not often seen by some of your competitors. And so I think it's something that is noteworthy. And especially too, you also understand the relationship between Delta and travel management companies, such as Safe Harbors Business Travel, and other TMCs, travel management companies, and understanding what it takes to really support what the corporate traveler wants and what they need and work in that coordination. So hats off to what you and your team and the rest of Delta does in supporting the entire ecosystem, if you call it.
Well, thank you. It remains our number one priority. We absolutely know we wouldn't be here and be able to mutually celebrate the successes if it wasn't for you, for Safe Harbors, for the TMC channel. We know the value that you create for the corporate customer, the value that you create and deliver on a daily basis for Delta, and it takes a village. And we're here holding hand in hand to be able to make sure that we can deliver it for our mutual customers.
Fantastic. Again, happy birthday. Congratulations. And any final words? Anything else on your mind that you want to share?
No, just, that we appreciate feedback. Feedback is a gift. Keep telling it. Fill out your surveys when you fly Delta. Let us know what you liked and what you didn't like, so that we continue to be able to have that laser focus on delivering day in and day out. Thank you.
Fantastic. Matt Kutches, thank you so much. Thank you very much for being with us and spending a couple of minutes and telling us about what's going on with Delta. So thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you again for joining us today. I hope you got some good nuggets out of our conversation between myself and Matt about what's going on with Delta, what they're looking at doing next year and moving forward with their partnerships with other carriers, but also what's going on today. How much have the tariffs impacted them, the shutdown? These are a few takeaways that I got, but also their aircraft, the kind of aircraft they're adding to their fleets and modernizing their fleets, making them more fuel efficient. And so I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I know I did, and look forward to sharing another conversation with you shortly in the future. So thanks again for joining us. This is Jay Ellenby with Flight Crew. Have a great day.